Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to day 75. Woohoo! I am going to talk to you tonight about some things that you just never know. There's a lot of things that you do out there. Tom, how you doing, buddy? Roll. Thanks for your help. There's a lot of things that you do out there that you just don't think you're going to make a difference, and you just never know. And I'm here to just encourage you to keep doing that, keep doing the right thing. And sometimes you will never know. Hey, Jim, sometimes you'll never know if you've impacted someone. And the reason that you're doing it isn't so that you get recognition for it. I'm going to give you a couple of examples tonight of what I mean by that. So I'm in Toastmasters. Many of you that know me or know that organization, there's 300,000 members around the world. Hey, Karen, how you doing? 300,000 in these 30-some countries. Anyway, every year, hey, Amy, every year they have a contest that starts out at the local level, so right here in Rapid City. And you go through a speech contest. They're 7-minute speeches at the max, otherwise you get disqualified. And you continue on to the World Championships of Public Speaking, which next year happens to be in Denver. And they only take 10 people to the World Championship stage. So for many years I've competed in that contest. And a lot of times at those, of course, you go in with the intention you want to win, you do your best, you work your hardest. And sometimes you just don't get the results that you wanted or that you had hoped for. And one of the times that this had happened to me was, I have the date, it was actually April 29th of 2017. I had made it to the district level in the speech contest. And I did my best at giving a speech. And a lot of times they have past world champions who come and keynote the weekend, and they're one of the big speakers for the weekend. Hey, Shannon, and good to see you, my friend. So the fellow that came that year was one of the world champions of public speaking. His name is Morgan MacArthur. And we ended up getting to spend a lot of time at the contest, and it was up in North Dakota. So anyway, I gave this speech, and again, they're only 7 minutes long, so you don't have much time to tell many stories to make an impact. And I don't even know if I placed at that contest. It doesn't matter because the results were better than the trophy that I could have expected. So anyway, I didn't place, and the next morning I was taking a world champion of public speaking back to the airport. But first we went out to breakfast. So as we get out of my car, I obviously was driving him, and I saw Morgan had this, looked like a brown paper sack that was folded up. And he had it with him all morning. When we met, we walked down the hall together. I saw the paper, didn't know what it was, didn't care, didn't ask. Get in the car, I see him holding this. We go into Denny's, and he brings it into the restaurant with him. And I was just kind of wondering by this time, what in the world is he holding a brown paper bag for? So anyway, we eat breakfast, we order, and all of that business. When we were finished with breakfast, he started to tell me about the impact that my speech from the night before had on him. Now, the interesting thing, as I told you earlier, these world champions come in to motivate and inspire and encourage us Toastmasters to achieve at their level and how to get there and stuff. So here I'm sitting across the table. Now, I don't know anything about this kind of calligraphy that Morgan MacArthur does, but he loves calligraphy, practices it all the time. Again, it's over my head. I don't know all of the different levels of calligraphy that there is. But anyway, so he unfolds this piece of paper, and he started to tell me, as a result of my speech last night, the impact that I had on him. and he had been up since 5 o'clock that morning. Hey, Terry, thank you for tuning in. He had been up since 5 o'clock that morning and started to do this style of calligraphy that he had just written off, that he's never going to be able to do it, can't master it, it's too difficult, etc. And so what he did was on that brown paper bag. Now, I know that this is backwards for you, but it would look backwards to you if you were standing here looking at it as well, because I'm not a calligrapher. So anyway, he sent this. This is what was on the brown paper bag. And again, it's just lettering that I don't understand, but I know that if he's telling me it's difficult to do and challenging, that it's very difficult and challenging, because he is a master of many, many things. He also does the Ironman races like my Karen does, which is on the, I'm so proud of you every time you do that. Anyway, so he was telling me how he had been up practicing, and the night before, his talk was about deliberate rehearsal, deliberately practicing. And that was the message that he gave to us. So he was up that morning deliberately practicing this. He called it purposeful practice. And he wrote on here, my talk happened to be about a jailbreak, about when I was in prison one time. And sometime I need to tell you that story before done. This day 75, so we only have like 15 days left, so I'll try to get the jailbreak story in. But he said, thanks for the jailbreak. Breakthrough lettering as a result of your good talk. Cheers, Morgan MacArthur. So that's one perfect example of, that evening I probably was in my motel room crumbing a little bit that I didn't win or didn't do as good or didn't place or whatever. And then voila, the next morning I get to find out that I impacted a world champion speaker. So that was one example. And all of you have examples of this where you've done great things, or you're trying to do good things for people, and you may not get the recognition. And then along comes someone who sends you a post or just a nice letter or just gives you some recognition. And again, that's not what you're looking for, but it is nice when you do receive it. So here's another example. In 2015, I was asked to speak for an organization, a federal government organization. And the speech was in June, right? It was up in Sturgis in our area. So it was in June. And the seating was horrible. The auditorium was horrible. The sound equipment wasn't that great. And I was on a stage, so I just really didn't feel a connection with the audience at all. And it was the longest keynote I'd ever given. It was a half day, so a couple hours. And I just left there not feeling good about my talk. Hey, Ann, thanks for tuning in. I'll be talking to you very soon. I just didn't feel connected to the audience. So again, kind of left there with my lip pooched out thinking, man, I don't know why I couldn't connect with these folks. Betsy from Big Timber, how you doing? So what happened was, now I told you that talk was in June, and I didn't think I made a connection with anyone. Well, here comes October of that year, several months later. My wife Nancy gets an email, and I'll read that to you. Hopefully I don't blow it and read his name. He said, the center director had your husband talk to us during the summer break in Sturgis, and he told us about Automobile University, and he mentioned listening to Zig Ziglar in his car on his long drives when you guys lived in Yellowstone. Out of all the employees there, I believe that I am the only one that went and downloaded Zig Ziglar programs to listen to in my car. I've been listening to them in my car every day since his talk. And I want to thank him for taking that day and mentioning Zig Ziglar. It has dramatically changed my life. I have listened to all his programs over and over, so please tell your husband a big thank you for speaking at our staff. And then one last quick example. Back in the days when I used to sell manufactured modular homes, had a young couple come in that most people would have just treated disrespectful, thinking they don't have the money to buy a house. What are they even doing here? Big waste of time, yada, yada, yada. I didn't. I was smart enough because I read a lot of the books back here on sales and doing that with integrity. And I treated that young couple just like I would you if you were coming in to purchase a home from me. And I'll tell you what the cool thing was a few days later, Grandma and Grandpa came in and purchased that home for their grandkids. And I was like, whew, good thing that I was a nice guy to them instead of a jackwagon, because I could have stereotyped them and thought they couldn't afford it, and etc. But anyway, those are 3 stories to tell you that sometimes the good things that you do out there may never get noticed. You may never hear of someone's life that you touched. But I promise you that you are making an impact and that you can make an impact in people's lives. So just keep doing what you're doing. Because as the title for this says, sometimes you just never know. I appreciate all of you tuning in. Day 75 today out of the 90-day challenge. And I'll be here tomorrow. I hope you are too.